Psychic type Pokemon are some of the best Pokemon out there. Sure, they may not be as busted as they were in, Gen 1, but, they're still pretty good Pokemon. They don't really have that many weaknesses, and they hit pretty hard overall. There are a total of 7 Psychic type Pokemon in Leaf Green. However, there are only 6 fully evolved ones because Kadabra is a trait evolution. Even with 6 fully evolved encounters, there's some really great Pokemon here. Without further ado, let's begin. But this is a Nuzlocke, so I do have to go over the rules. Number 1, if a Pokemon faints, it's considered dead forever and I can't use it, even if I find a revive on the ground. Number 2, I can't overlevel past the gym leader's ace Pokemon or highest level Pokemon. I have to play on set mode, meaning I can't get the free switches I normally get when I kill a Pokemon. So if I kill a Pokemon and it gives you a switch, I can't switch out. I may only get 1 Pokemon per area or town, not really route. And if one of my Pokemon dies, I can't catch another of the same Pokemon, even if I didn't find it. Since there's no Psychic type Pokemon before the first gym, I used the UPI to change Charmander to Staryu. I end up naming my Staryu Foggy, and I immediately challenge Brock, who's a clean sweep overall. Not much to talk about. After this, I make it into the bustling town of Cerulean City, where I can do some stuff. But before that, we have to fight a rival. He leads off with his Pidgeotto. A water gun does a decent chunk of damage as I get hit with a gust. A water gun then leaves it with a sliver, but after some attacks we can take it out. His rat comes in, but I manage to take it out with a few water guns after it hits a nasty quick attack. His Squirtle comes in, so I hit some chip, but then I'm actually kind of low, so I end up having to recover, but after a while I do manage to take it out. His Abra comes in, but I can't attack, so some water guns manage to kill it and win us the first rival fight of the playthrough. I named my rival Moo, by the way. It's now time to fight Misty, and she's off with Staryu for a fun little mirror match, though it takes a while because we're both water types. Eventually, I get confused and I'm left with 3 HP, and things just don't go my way. So, boy, that's attempt 1. On the second turn, I use the UPI and I get a Drowsy instead. It's time to fight Brock again. He leads off with Geodude and I miss a bunch of Hypnosises. But eventually I do land one and I do manage to take it to sleep, and a few confusions take it out. His Onix comes in, and since I'm kind of low, I'm forced to put it to sleep, but it just misses a bind, so that's pretty cool. My confusions are actually doing decent damage, but they're not enough because this thing is kind of bulky, especially this early on in the game, and has some good special defense. But Onix eventually does wake up and hits a hard bind, but I managed to take it out. And that wins us the first gym badge of the second attempt of the playthrough. Oh boy, now it's time for our rematch. Mr. leads off with Staryu, and I lead off with Karen the Drowsy. I hit a Hypnosis on the first try, thankfully. From there, 3 different confusions take the star thing out as it just stays asleep forever and just dies a slow and painful death. Her evolved star comes out, and yep, this thing does not go as well as planned. I hit a Hypnosis, which thankfully lands, but it hits some nasty damage. The confusion is barely doing any damage as it wakes up and hits a nasty Swift. I go for a headbutt, but another Swift just takes it out, which is really sad. However, on attempt 3, I can learn Mega Punch, which would be very useful into the big star. So that's a very good attack. Unfortunately, things kind of go the same way. Her Staryu goes for a Harden, while I miss my first Mega Punch, which is a really big problem. My second Mega Punch manages to connect, but unfortunately, it just doesn't do a lot of damage. I then try to hit a Hypnosis so it doesn't keep setting up these defense drops, but then a Confusion is actually a decent chunk of damage, but then it wakes up and hits a hard Water Pulse. This is really bad because we do need to be somewhat healthy for the Starmie. See, it hits a nasty Water Pulse for a good chunk of damage before Hypnosis can put it to sleep. I then hit a Mega Punch, which misses. Thankfully, Starmie stays asleep, and a Mega Punch is not doing that much damage. I don't really have that many attacks. And then it wakes up and hits a nasty Water Pulse, which confuses me, and then they get hurt in my confusion, and then they get taken out. So, oh well. What can you do? On the next turn, my attempts go the exact same way. I managed to take out the star, but Starmie kind of killed me in the process. On attempt 4, I randomized my Pokemon into Mr. Mime, and I name him Foggy. It's now time to fight Brock again. He leads off with his Geodude, And I lead off with, you guessed it, Foggy. It's a pretty easy battle, though. I hit a Confusion, which leaves it with around 1 HP as it just goes for a tackle. Another Confusion just takes it out, and his Onyx comes in, but thankfully a crit Confusion just takes it out and wins us the first gym badge of the run. Anyway, that wins us the battle, and Brock, I just got something to tell you. You suck. I have not wiped you yet. Oh boy, it's now time to fight Misty again. This time, I lead off with Foggy, and I hit a very hard Confusion into Mr. Mime, as it just sets up a defense boost, which is useless because we're using special attacks. A Confusion then leaves it with the red, but then another Confusion takes it out. Because of the KO, we level up and learn Magical Leaf, which is why I actually picked Mr. Mime. First Army comes out, and then instead of going for a Confusion, I go for a Magical Leaf, which does great damage. It hits a Water Pulse, but again, it doesn't really do much, and another Magical Leaf takes out and wins us the second badge. That was the hardest gym battle I've ever had before. It's now time to fight the rival on the Nugget Bridge. He leads off with his Pidgeotto, who hits a soft quick attack before 2 Confusions manage to actually take it out. His Rat Attack comes in, but it's kind of weak, so the Confusion just takes it out. His Squirrel comes in, lives a Confusion and sets up a withdrawal, but does nothing, so another Confusion just takes it out. Abra comes in, but it can't really do anything too serious, so 2 Confusions just take it out. Keep in mind, Abra doesn't really know any attacking moves at this level, but, oh well, it is what it is, and that wins us the battle. However, on the next route over, we can catch an Abra, but I forgot to record it. I decided to name him Bullseye. Shortly after this, Bullseye actually evolves into a Kadabra. Remember, we can't evolve him into an Alakazam due to the level cap, and also this is a trade evolution, so we can't really use him a lot. After this, we encounter a Drowsy, and this guy's going to be super useful later because it's pretty bulky for a Psychic type. I name him Fisk. Again, it's time to take on our rival. Boy, he leads off with Pidgeotto, and I lead off with Bullseye for his debut battle. Bullseye hits a Confusion for half damage, as Pidgeotto just goes for a Sand Attack. Another Confusion takes it out. More Turtle comes in, but this thing's kind of bulky, so my Confusions don't really do any damage. But thankfully, I do get a Confusion. Another Confusion just kills it. Oh boy. Eradicate comes in, and this thing hits really hard, so I gotta switch out to Fisk. It's a Tail Whip, so I switch into Foggy, who then can set up a Confusion, which leaves it barely alive, as it just goes for a Tail Whip. Another Confusion can just take it out, so that's pretty cool. Boy, his Kadabra comes in, and my Confusions aren't doing much damage because this thing actually is evolved. But, oh well. Anyway, that wins us the battle. And okay, no wonder these games aren't on Switch yet. Okay, alright. Anyway, it's now time to fight Surge, the electric type gym leader. He leads with Voltorb, and I lead off with Bullseye, but I managed to just take him out with a Confusion. His Pikachu comes in, but also goes down to a Side Beam. His Raichu comes in, and the Side Beam only does half health as it just goes for a double team. A Confusion then leaves it with a Sliver, but then I get paralyzed. Thanks to our ability, Raichu also gets paralyzed. Surge then heals up and then uses a full heal, and my Side Beam misses. Raichu then sets up another double team and I'm paralyzed. I then switch out into Fisk as Raichu sets up another double team. I then go for a Confusion as it goes for a Thunder Wave, which is a lot of damage. I'm not really doing much damage, so I have to switch out into Foggy, who gets hit with a nasty Shockwave. Magical Leaf leaves it with yellow HP, and another Shockwave does a decent chunk, but thankfully I'm able to come in clutch and take it out with a Magical Leaf, which gives you a third battle. These games are pretty weird, not gonna lie. No wonder they're not on Switch. Anyway, after this, Fisk evolves, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, after this, we gotta fight Erica, who is all grass and poison types. So, it's not really a surprise when Foggy manages to take out her first 2 Pokemon with just some Side Beams and Confusions and stuff of that nature. Also, yes, I'm more Foggy leveled up, but that's okay. Anyway, Vileplume actually lives the Psychic and hits a very annoying Stun Spore. Luckily, I'm able to break through it, but again, it just lives on a few HP. It then hits a Giga Drain, which, But then the Side Beam just takes it out and wins us the 4th gym badge. After this, we meet a Mall boss. He leads off with Onix, and I lead off with Bullseye, who has learned Psychic. So that just kills off the Onix, because Onix sucks. Kangaskhan comes in, and then hits a very hard Fake Out. So I then switch to Foggy, who gets tickled with a Bite, even though it does super effective damage. A Magical Leaf does some chip damage before getting hit with a Tail Whip. I then go on court into Tail Whip. which is a very useful move. I then hit a Psychic for decent damage before switching out into Fisk. Fisk then hits a Psychic, or Hypnosis, or a Psychic, same thing. Doesn't really matter. Kangaskhan then wakes up and then does some decent damage, which is annoying, but thankfully it's still in its encore and another Psychic just takes it out. Rhyhorn comes in and then hits a critical hit Stomp as I miss my attack, which is very annoying. So I then switch out into Foggy, who hits a Tail Whip, but a Magical Leaf just takes it out and wins us the first battle against some crazy man. After this, oh boy, our rival challenges us. He leads off with Pidgeotto, and I lead off with Kadabra, who just knocks the thing out with a critical hit Psychic. I'm not sure if the crit mattered, but I'm not sure. His Fire Puppy thing comes out, but it actually doesn't, and his Wartortle comes out instead, but that just goes down to a Psychic. His Growlithe comes in, but it just goes down to a Psychic. His eggs then come in, but they're kind of weak, so they just go down to a Psychic apiece, which actually crits. So Bullseye's coming in clutch here. His Kadabra comes in, and this thing where things get a little tricky. He actually lives a Psychic on like 1 HP as he retaliates with the Confusion, but luckily we just take it out. After this, a man just gives us his Fishing Rod for some reason, but we can actually use this rod to get some encounters, so that's pretty cool. Maybe we can get a full team of 6, I don't know. After this, we can backtrack all the way down to Palatown and catch a Staryu, who I decide to name Ben. Ben will be super useful later on in the playthrough, and you'll see why later. Also, he evolves into a Starmie. Nice. After this, we can fight the Poison-type Gym Leader, which is going to be a clean sweep. Koga leads off with this Coughing, and I lead off with Bullseye, who just can take it out with a Psychic. His Muck actually then comes in, but it's a Poison type, so it sucks. So another Psychic just takes it out. Or not. It just goes for a Minimize, which is fine, because we're mainly a special attacker. But then another Psychic leaves it with just some HP. Another Psychic comes in, leaves it with some HP, and then I manage to take it out. Coughing comes in, but this thing's kind of weak, especially at this point in the game, so I can just take it out with a Psychic. His last Pokemon is Weezing, but I can just kill it with a Psychic. It's kind of weird that the Muck gave me more issues with the Weezing, but that's okay, and it wins the 5th gym badge. In the Safari Zone, we find a pile of eggs, but it just runs away, so we kind of skip out on that encounter. After this, we can fish up a Slowpoke, who I decide to name Nobu. If you can get the nickname theme, comment down below. After this, we take on our rival fight, and he does not favor us. Our rival leads off with Pidgeotto, and I lead off with Bullseye, who goes down to 2 stab Psychics apiece, so it just goes for some Feather Dances. His Blastoise then comes in, which is not fully evolved for some reason. So I set up a Reflect, but he sadly strikes us, and he takes us out with a critical hit Bite, causing our first death. I switch to Ben, who tries to hit the turtle with a Psychic, but he goes for a Protect. We then hit a Thunderbolt for around half HP as we just get tickled with a Bite. I then hit another Thunderbolt, which kills the tanky turtle, or not, and it gets another critical hit Bite. Nice. I switch into Fisk, who just gets tickled with a Bite, and before going down to a Psychic. This thing's literally killed half our team. His Growlithe then comes in, and it lives a Psychic, and it hits a nasty Body Slam. But thankfully another one does manage to take it out. His pile of eggs come in, and this thing actually is going to give us some problems because it stun spores us, which can be a huge issue. Confusion doesn't do that much damage, and neither does a Headbutt. Another Confusion does a lot of damage, but then 2 Headbutts manage to take it out. His Alakazam comes in, and it just sets up a Calm Mind, which is not going to be that big of a problem because we're going to resist most of its attacks. But I do get paralyzed a lot, and then it goes for a Future Sight, which could be a huge problem. This thing is now at +3, and I'm able to hit a crit Body Slam, but it doesn't really matter because I get paralyzed. And a Psychic just leaves me with 18 HP. If that thing crit, we'd have definitely lost. But we have 2 deaths, but with every up, there's a down, and Nobu is able to evolve. He's going to have to pull his weight being the only Water-type Pokemon now. Oh boy. It's now time to fight the Mall Boss. He leads off with his Nidorino, and I lead off with Foggy, who could just hit a Side Beam for a good chunk of damage, who actually takes it out. I was not expecting that. His Nidoqueen comes out, so I thought it'd be the same thing here, but actually lives a Side Beam and just goes for a Tail Whip. But thankfully another one just takes it out. His Kangaskhan comes in and hits a hard Fake Out as I retaliate with the Confusion, which leaves it with a lot. But then a crit takes us out, which stinks, man. It stinks. I switch to Fisk, who lands with some Headbutts and some Psychics. I managed to take it out, but it still hurts, you know. As Ryan comes in and lives a psychic, but thankfully another one takes it out. But, you know, not without death and sacrifice. Rip Foggy. We're super useful. Maybe in another life, you know. After this, we can take on Sabrina, the psychic type gym leader. She leads off with her Kadabra, and I lead off with Nobu, who can just take it off with a Shadow Ball, but not before she sets up a future sight, which can be a problem later. His Venonat comes in and then hits a Leech Life for a decent chunk of damage. I then hit a Shadow Ball, but then I realized that this thing's not a psychic type. Venomoth then hits another Leech Life, but a Confusion on the next turn just manages to take it out. Mr. Mime comes in, and then I take a Future Sight for a good chunk of damage. It sets up a Calm Mind, but since Shadow Ball is physical in this game, it just takes it out because there's no defense boosts. His Alakazam comes in, and yeah, hits a hard Psychic, but a Shadow Ball on the next turn manages to take it out. And that wins us the 6th badge. After this, we can immediately fight the 7th gym leader. He leads off with Growlithe, and I lead off with Nobu. Growlithe hits a nasty crit bite before I can drown the pupper with a Surf, which does a lot of damage. Arcanine comes in and then hits a nasty bite, which leaves us with just 15 HP, and a Surf just doesn't kill. Blaine then heals up on the next turn, and a Surf again just doesn't kill. Another Surf leads it with a Sliver. Arcanine then, unfortunately, kills Nobu with a Fire Blast. I switch into our only Pokemon left, Fisk, and I kill it with a Headbutt. This horse thing comes in and retaliates with a crit Fire Blast, which is a huge chunk of damage, which is a huge problem. Headbutt on the next turn takes it out, but we're in a lot of trouble here. Rapidash comes in and hits a Fire Blast, which kills us. Boy. Well, that was attempt 5. What can you do? Seriously, what can you do, man? What can you do? Anyway, the Royal Fight in Silph Co goes so much easier, and we actually get a full team of 6. We managed to catch all of our Pokemon. That's a clean sweep here. Also, we were able to take on the Mob Boss again. It's a pretty clean sweep. Thankfully, I did some planning, so I did get some better moves. Also, Sabrina goes down easier. I don't know why I mentioned that, because she wasn't a problem. After this, we can face off against Blaine. I lead off with my Starmie, who is named the Punisher, and the Punisher lives up to its name and just kills all of Blaine's Pokemon with some Surfs. Blaine has to watch all of his Pokemon die a painful death. After this, we can just go to the Sylvia Islands with this guy named Bill. I don't know why we're doing this, but we can actually catch a Poliwhirl here. And now you're thinking, that's a Psychic type. Well, I mean, yeah, you're right, but like, you'll see why it is later, why we have it later. After this, it's time for the Mob Boss, but then Punisher lives up to his name and just takes all of his Pokemon out with some Surfs. And that wins us the 8th badge. Then, it's a rival fight, but thankfully the Punisher does his thing and kills everyone. Remember that Poliwhirl from like 5 seconds ago? Well, we can actually trade it over for a Jinx. And this guy's going to be kind of useful because, you know, it's an Ice type and, you know, there's a Dragon type gym leader. So, this is our final team going in. I do decide to replace Kadabra because it like hasn't really contributed much after. It's also a little bit weak to warn as it spawned the team. Lorelei, the Ice type gym leader, is first. She leads off with her Dugong, and I lead off with the Punisher. I hit a hard Thunderbolt as it just hits a Surf. Another Thunderbolt in the next turn takes it out. Her Lapras comes in, and I actually hit a crit Thunderbolt, which just takes it out in one hit. Forster comes in, but it's kind of weak, so it just goes down to a Thunderbolt. Her Slowbro comes in, and I hit a Thunderbolt for a good chunk as it just sets up an Amnesia. I then hit a Thunderbolt, which kills it. Her Jinx comes in, and I hit another crit Thunderbolt, which knocks into yellow HP as Jinx puts me to sleep, which is a huge problem. I then stay asleep as Jinx hits a soft Ice Bomb. We both then get affected by their status conditions. On the next turn, I wake up and I hit a Thunderbolt, which leaves Jinx with just a sliver of HP. Lorelei then heals up, and then but man, luckily I take it out. The second Elite Four member, we have Bruno, who uses fighting types. He leads off with the Onyx, and I lead off with Karen, who can just take it out with a Psychic. Her Hitmonchan comes out, but I just take it off with a Psychic after it hits a soft Sky Uppercut. Hitmonlee comes in, but hits a hard Mega Kick before I can take it out with a Psychic. Her second Onyx comes in, but just goes into a Psychic. This last Pokemon, Machamp, lives a Psychic with a few HP, but just sets up a Bulk Up as its berry heals it. Thankfully, another Psychic on the next turn takes it out, and that wins us the fight against Bruno. After this, we meet this lady named Agatha, the Ghost Poison Trainer. She leads off with her Gengar, and I lead off with the Punisher, who hits an Ice Beam for around half health before it just sets up a double team. My Ice Beam on the next turn misses, but Gengar hits a hard Shadow Punch, which I then have to switch out into Karen as Lorelai goes for a Bulbasaur. Gengar sets up a double team, but luckily a Psychic manages to take it out. Her stupid bat comes in and hits a nasty air cutter before going down to a Psychic. Her Arbok comes in, and this thing can be a problem. I get poisoned and crit, but luckily I managed to take it out. Gengar comes in and hits a Shadow Ball, which kills us. So I switch into Leland as Gengar misses Hypnosis, but I managed to kill it. Taunter comes in, but I actually stay asleep. I get hit with a mean look. Curse comes in, but luckily I'm able to come in clutch and hit a Psychic, and that wins us the third Elite Four member. Next up is Lance, and this guy's actually pretty easy. Punisher just punishes, and said it's punishing time, and takes him out. Anyway, it's now time for the last fight with our rival. He leads off with this Trash Bird, and we get off with the Punisher. An Ice Beam doesn't kill, and the Trash Bird just goes for a stupid sand attack. Our rival heals on the next turn, and our Ice Beam leaves it with just a sliver. Thankfully, we managed to take it out. Arcanine comes in, but just goes down to a Surf. Blastoise comes in, so I hit a Thunderbolt for around half health as it just sets up the rain, which is annoying. Barry then heals the turtle, but another Thunderbolt takes it out. His Executor comes in, and since I'm out of Ice Beam PP, I click a random move, but it just puts me to sleep for some weird reason. Executor then sets up a leg screen, and then hits a nasty good drain when I'm asleep. I realize I have to sacrifice the Punisher. I send out Jinx for a W battle, and it's an Ice Beam, and then it's another Ice Beam to take it out. Rest well, Punisher. Ryan comes in, but just goes down to an Ice Beam. His last Pokemon is Alakazam, and hits a soft Psychic as I go for a Body Slam. Like, he does get the special offense drop, but then realize what I have to do. I set up a Parashong, and I just watch Alakazam die a slow and painful death. I do have to sacrifice Foggy here, but it's not the end of the world. Yeah, this wins us the run, and I should probably stop saying anyway. Well, that was a really fun challenge. Thank you so much for watching. Comment, like, sub. If you leave a comment saying that you did that, I'll get back to you. I really enjoyed this challenge. I expect the production quality to be higher. I'm not really, good with the microphone and the gameplay. I'm still trying to get the gameplay at a speed at which I can properly narrate it. So I'm still experimenting with that, but I do expect to have that fixed by the next video. My next video is either going to be Pokemon Ruby with ground types only, or Pokemon Sword with fire types only. I'm experimenting between the different games now. I'm starting to play them. I haven't really played the DS game, so that's why I've only really been playing the Gen 3, and I don't own a capture card, so it's kind of hard to record footage, but expect to see some new Pokemon games in like the next month or so. I mean, no one's really watching these, so it doesn't really matter, but oh well. Thank you for watching. Comment, like, sub. Also, credit to Nintendo for the music. Please don't kill me.